Hey guys, so hey baby. So right now, I kind of just want to give y'all an update, a life update. Say hi, Cookie. Hi dear. So, as y'all know, I haven't posted a video in a while, and although that's not too strange for me, I actually have a reason why this time, not just because I was being lazy. The reason being is that we had to put my first ever dog down, and that was pretty sad, to put it the least. So this isn't going to be like my normal videos. I'm not really going to edit it too much. I guess I'm just going to like speak of what happened. I wasn't even sure if I was really going to talk about this, but I don't just want to like briefly touch on it on a video. Like I want to actually make a full video about it. So here I am. The good thing is that I don't think I'm going to cry. I have already cried everything. So yeah. Some of you guys may know that I used to live with my grandma for a few years, and in doing so they had a dog that I would take care of. So he slept with me, he was my best friend, and we would go on walks. And I always tell a story that whenever I had the flu, like I was so cold and he was my only warm heater because he would always sleep with me. So his name is Shiloh, was Shiloh, and Shiloh had diabetes. After I moved out, my aunt actually took him with her to live with her because he was technically supposed to be her dog. But yeah, and so he was living his best life over there. But then shortly after, her getting him his checkups with the vet and stuff, we found out that he had diabetes. And so there was a whole bunch of issues that arose with that, but he lived a pretty good life for many years after his original diagnosis of diabetes. And so my aunt has to go on work trips a lot, so she would constantly have to have her family, us, take care of him. And this time she went on a trip for a week, and so it was up to me and my mom and my aunt to take care of him, and we were kind of trading him off. I was supposed to take care of him, I think it was Thursday to Friday. And my aunt was gone from Monday to Friday, was supposed to be. So my aunt got him first. He was fine for the first 2 days, but after that he stopped wanting to eat. And that's not unusual for him, just because sometimes he likes to throw fits whenever he gets mad, because he gets mad whenever my aunt goes away. And so he just throws fits, but he starts eating back right away. And whenever he doesn't eat, we can't give him his insulin because that causes a whole bunch of other problems. So by the time I got him, he hadn't eaten for 3 days, 2 days? I don't know, 3 or 2 days. And so I got him on Thursday, and again with me, he didn't want to eat. Usually he does want to eat with me though. And I tried everything. We tried giving him, I think we tried giving him bacon, we tried giving him egg too, and he still didn't want it. But that's fine. It was still within normal limits. And then finally on Friday, my aunt was supposed to come back. So I asked if I could just leave him at her house in hopes that maybe he was homesick and he would want to eat being back in his familiar little place. So the night before that, we just spent time with him outside here. He was hanging out with the pups. He was very normal. He was acting very active. He was walking around, running around, digging holes. And so we didn't really think anything out of the usual, except for he just didn't want to eat. So anyways, Friday comes. I drop him off at his house after attempting to feed him in the morning again. So I drop him off there and I leave him there. My aunt is supposed to come back in about 3-4 more hours. So he was supposed to be fine there until she came back. However, her plane kept getting delayed and delayed because of the weather. So finally she said, hey, I think I'm gonna have to have you take him again, so that because I don't think that I'm gonna be back today. So I said, okay, that's fine. So I went back to her house where Shiloh was. And when I went there, we went in there and he wasn't inside the house. And so we checked outside because he has a doggy door. And he was just outside in the middle of the grass, just laying there. And I just remember thinking that was so weird because every time anybody comes into his territory, he always barks. Like, even if it's someone he knows, because he doesn't know until they walk into the door. But yeah, we walked in and no barking, nothing. And so I just remember looking at him in the back, like his back was turned towards us. And I just remember thinking, is he like ready to die or something? I don't know why that thought crossed into my head, but it did. And I was just like, he looks very peaceful. It seems as if though he's like basking in the ambience and just taking in his last moments. I don't know why I just thought that, but I did. And then after that, he saw us and he still didn't bark. And usually he barks whenever anybody goes into his territory, like I said. So my husband ends up having to carry him inside, and that's when we start trying to coax him to eat again. So my aunt told me to try giving him some chicken wing bones, which we did have. I know you're not supposed to give your dog bones, but this was a special occasion to try and coerce him to eat again. So we tried giving him that and he did not want it. I cooked him some beef stew, which is his favorite, and he still didn't want it. And that's when I was just kind of getting worried because he was finally home and he still didn't want to eat. I even tried his little diabetic snacks and he still didn't want to eat. So finally, we took him on a walk around his community to see if maybe that would get him to kind of, I don't know. And so when we walked him, it was as if though sometimes he didn't really want to walk. And that's so weird. He loves walks. Like, he loves to walk. And so when we were walking him, he squatted down to go potty. And then like all we see is blood coming out. And that's when I got very worried. And I texted my aunt, but you know what? I was worried, but not too worried, because one of my pups had diarrhea of blood, and it was just one time and never again. So I was like, hey, this is what happened. He just did bloody diarrhea. It might be normal, it might not. Do you want me to take him to an emergency vet? Because I can't. And at first she said no, but after I talked to my other aunt talked to her, and finally she said, okay, yes, let's go to the vet. So we take him to the vet that we actually took Osito when he got hit by a couple cars. So we took him there, and my aunt, who was in Austin at the time, met us there. And she said that we could go ahead and leave and that she was just going to stay there with him. But I was like, are you sure? Because what about if these are his final moments? Like, I want to be there with him. But she said that she didn't think that this was going to be his final moments. So we're like, okay. So we left. Keep in mind, the owner, his mother, is still in another state, not even there at the vet with him. Okay, so we left once his vitals were good, and so we left back home, and then all of a sudden my aunt calls me and my mom, and she doesn't put it in the group chat with Shiloh's mother, and she says, hey, things are not good. The doctor says, I forgot the medical term for it, but basically Shiloh is not in good condition, and he was gonna either have to have this very, very expensive surgery that may or may not work. He might die on the table, or my aunt has to make the decision to put him down. And that's when we were just like, what is gonna happen? Like, we don't know what she was going to decide. And by this time she was on a plane, and so she couldn't respond. And so we had to wait until she landed. And so, long story short, by the time that she landed, Shiloh was already progressing really fast. Blood was coming out of his little booty every, I think they said 5 minutes. And by this time, the doctor said that there was no more saving him. They were gonna have to put him down either today or tomorrow, but tomorrow is pretty much inhumane. So we knew that it was gonna have to be done. So immediately we all rushed into the vet, and my aunt got rushed. Once she landed, she rushed to the vet too. Of course, how horrible is that? Like, just being at an airport and then getting that call, and she had nobody there with her. Like, that's just, it's very sad. And so we go into this little room, and Shiloh is very peaceful. Well, it looks like he's very peaceful. He's on his little bed, and my aunt's there with him, petting him. And she's, of course, crying, and we're crying, and it's just such a mess. But we're all there with him to try and comfort him and to see him in his last moments. And so the vet comes in, and she tells us what's going to happen. So for those who don't know what's going to happen, it's 2 injections, one to make him fall asleep, as in anesthesia, like the regular thing that they give pups when they're going to go with surgery. And so they just kind of fall asleep. So the first one was that one, and then the second one was to stop their heart. So she comes in, she asks us if we're ready, and this vet is super nice. Like, she was super gentle with everything. Like, she was awesome. So we just give him all these kisses, and then she asks us if we're ready for the first medication, so we say yes. And so when she puts him in, he looks like confused. He's like, wait, what's going on? But I assume that's just because when you're undergoing anesthesia, you know, it kind of feels a little weird, like maybe like you're like a little drunk or something. So he felt like that, and he tried to get up, but we were just like, it's okay, Shiloh, it's okay. And we were just saying he was a good boy, until finally he just kind of stayed still as if he was sleeping. It would have looked as if he was sleeping, but the only thing is that his eyes were open, but that's not uncommon because technically he's not sleeping, he's just under anesthesia. So his eyes were open, and that's when it was kind of like, it was a little, I don't know. So yeah, my aunt didn't want to be in the room for when they stopped his heart, so we were there with him. And the whole time we were just saying, good boy, we love you, Shiloh, you were so loved. Just so that in case he could still hear us, he could, you know, feel a sense of love while this is happening. And finally they put in the last injection, and I didn't want to look for this part, so I turned around because I didn't want to see any jerks, any movements. But when I looked back, he still looked like he was sleeping. My husband had put his little eyes down, and his little ears were still up. And if he wouldn't have known what just happened, it would have looked as if he was just sleeping. So that's how we left him. My aunt didn't want his little body, and you know, ultimately that's up to her. She lived with him for these past couple of years. So yeah, after that, it was my responsibility, or me and my husband's responsibility, to go into my aunt's house and just take everything that was Shiloh's away. And everybody handles grief differently, okay? Like, some may think like, why wouldn't you want to have anything of him? But I understand her because when we started taking, first of all, when I walked into that house, and it looked as if Shiloh was still supposed to be there because his bed was there, his toys were all around, his food bowl was still full, his water bowl was still full. And it just, like, even though, like, when we walked in there, like, I just started crying again. And so I went through all her stuff, and I took everything that was of Shiloh's, and I brought it home with me. And then when I was separating the stuff to donate or to keep for her when she's ready, like, I just saw his little sweater, his little jacket that he would always bring with us whenever we would take care of him during the winter months. And it's just so heartbreaking to see see this stuff again. Now I can look at it without crying, but it is difficult. And the good thing is that my aunt is now at a place where she is ready to see some of his stuff again. So yeah, it was just a difficult experience for us. But I truly believe that God is preparing our hearts. I always pray, like I've always, God knows my heart, of course, and I've always prayed that God prepare my heart for what's to come, because these pups are my everything. Of course, God first. But I just have so much love for all these pups, and whenever Osito got hit by those cars, I was like, I've never been that sad before. And I just know that when these pups pass away, I'm not going to be good, but I'm just very glad that God is preparing my heart little by little for when that moment actually comes. Because now I know that even though it's going to hurt a lot in the beginning, like, you just kind of start to get not comfortable with it, but you just kind of start to live with the feeling and feel a little better each day. So yeah, that's why I've been gone, and I'm feeling much better, and my aunt's feeling much better too. So yeah, okay, bye.